Painting is part of the concrete and drywall unit, so students are quite busy. So you need to prepare for the students by putting a drop cloth piece of plastic underneath, because there's going to be some drips. You need paint brushes and a roller, and then the paint. And each day, we usually pick a different colored paint so that you can see a contrast. But the paint needs to be stirred. You have to be careful sometimes shaking the tin. Sometimes there's a skin on top, and then that just moves all the little chunks around. So just give the paint a good stir, and you try to put in just the right amount of paint into the little tray. And just one student, maybe two at a time, will be painting on one wall unit. So try to put enough paint in that's going to last for them. Clean up, don't let the drips run all down the tin, and the brush is going to be used anyway. So just put the lid on, and that stops the air. So we're going to be using the paintbrush and the roller. And they're nice little small trays. These are mini size, and that's because we're just going to, each student paints a small portion. Take some kind of a guide and mark out where you want your students to be painting. So if you think that you have 5 students at a time, you need to have a square or a rectangle spot for each student. But they can't be right beside each other. When they paint, you want to make sure that there's a dry edge in between each student painting. So you have to separate them on the wall units. So maybe 1 week for try a trade they may paint one section, and then the next week they would paint the one right beside it. But wet paint beside wet paint is not a good thing. You always have to have your wet paint, and this is called cutting in. So you use your brush first. So I'm cutting in down along the pencil line. And it's freehand. Have the kids just doing freehand. We could masking tape it, but this will be an interesting way. You actually have the choice. And then cutting in down to the frame. So the idea is that we don't want to get paint on the frames. We want the paint to be in their rectangle area. Now at some point in time, when the rectangles wall unit's painted, you may want to have them just paint the trim. But that's your choice. So we're just filling in the paint so that the roller doesn't have to get too close to the edge. But the idea is that you use the brush first of all, the same as painting your house or inside your house. You do the complicated portions first, and then you come along with the roller. You get some paint onto the roller, and now we're rolling not just up and down or side to side. We're actually going on diagonals, and we're getting the paint onto the wall and trying to get the paint coverage everywhere. At the very end, we'll go back and we'll finish it off so it's got a nice texture to it. So the idea is that you don't want anybody to notice any little bare spots. So I've put paint on the wall unit. Now I'm just going to finish up and make sure that any areas that were a little bit thin have got paint. And it's good to spin the roller a little bit every once in a while because it gets worn down in one spot. Yeah, move that roller around. You have to demonstrate this to the students. You need to show each group how to paint. You can't assume that they know how to paint. And make sure you try it yourself, and then it should look quite nice at the end. At the very end of the day, make sure that you clean up your paint, and so you pour back any unused paint into the paint tin, and you use the brush for this. The brush is nice. Notice you don't have to get it all over your hands and everywhere. And just clean out the tray, and then at the end use warm water if it's a latex paint. Clean your brushes and your rollers, and they'll all be ready to go for the next try trade.